All right, that was Greg Bedard earlier in the week on Drake Maye, expressing some reservations about the young quarterback. I know Gasper didn't love that commentary when he heard it. Sort of ties into what Chris's opening take is with the Patriots and his reason for optimism. Gasper, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, was that Greg Bedard talking, or was that Josh McDaniels talking?
Why do you go there? Why do you do that?
No, because I'm just saying, I mean, I think, and I'm not ripping Bedard in that way.
No.
Just that sounds a little, I'm not, but that sounds about the way Josh McDaniels would look at it in terms of wanting the quarterback to respond in that manner. And I think part of the challenge for Josh is to be able to reach a quarterback that maybe has a little bit different demeanor than what he's used to dealing with. You have to understand, if you're talking about Tom Brady or even Mac Jones, right? Those are guys that were doubted and derided for a good portion of their careers. So they had that fire underneath them to prove it every single time. Drake Maye was a big time recruit. Drake Maye went to North Carolina. He was the chosen one. Drake Maye, going into his final year at North Carolina, people thought he could be the #1 overall pick and take that from Caleb Williams. So it's a different type of persona and demeanor of a quarterback that you have to be able to reach. That doesn't mean Drake Maye is entitled, but it means that he might have a level of certitude and confidence that those other guys didn't. And it's based on what your football experience is. That doesn't mean that you don't care, but you could show it in a different way. And I'll certainly say this, I would rather have a quarterback who I think the last couple of days in Minnesota, and I haven't been there, but from what I've read, under some challenging circumstances, has performed well, hasn't thrown a hissy fit, has shown emotional equanimity, rather than what I saw from Mac Jones. You know, shedding tears on the bench and obviously displaying his emotions on his sleeve to the point where you could tell that he was unnerved or bothered. So I would rather see that. But if we're going to compare every quarterback and their ability to compete and their competitive fire to Tom Brady, then they're all going to fall short, not just Drake Maye.
I mean, yes and no, they're unfair comparisons. But I think it's all right to hold Brady up as a standard and teach it that way. I mean, when you teach science, you don't teach them some schlub nobody scientist. You teach them Isaac Newton, right? Like, I mean, that's what you do. So when you say
where this analogy was going,
well, yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. Like when you teach U.S. history, you don't spend time on some crappy schlub president. You teach them Abraham Lincoln, right? So if we're going to talk about how we want a quarterback to be, it's okay to say this is what Brady did. I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, you don't.
How dare you disparage Chester A. Arthur?
You know what I mean? You hold up the greats for a reason. Like, this is how you're supposed to do it, or that's the ideal. So, like, I don't have a big problem with that. I don't. You want him to be closer to Tom Brady than Mac Jones. You want to be closer to Abraham Lincoln than Chester Arthur.
Chester A. Arthur.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
The A, Felger. Come on, Jesus.
But I understand what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right in terms of the teaching film, right? The teaching film, yes, I want you to try and do it the way Tom Brady did it, but I think to ask him to have Tom Brady's comportment and demeanor, that's not really fair. And Mac Jones was a lot closer in demeanor to Tom Brady than I think Drake Maye is. And that didn't work out because he didn't have the talent to back it up. You know, you can have that sort of Brady, Manning type demeanor. Marino had it a little bit, although I thought Marino took it to an annoying level where it just looked like he was blaming his teammates all the time. But you can have that sort of demeanor when you have the talent to back it up. If you don't, then you just sort of look like a petulant child.
But Chris, don't you agree that Drake Maye is going to be defined? His greatness will rise or fall on kind of the intangibles. Like the physical stuff is there. It's going to be about like all that other stuff, don't you think? Toughness, leadership, decision making, you know, whatever you put into that bucket of other stuff. He's got the physical traits.
Yeah. I think processing for me is bigger than, again, what his persona is. Can he process it? Can he see it quickly? Can he make the right decisions? Can he do that? You know, the fact that he's not chucking his helmet or firing a clipboard, I'm okay with that. You know, I don't think that's necessarily I don't think everybody has to be that way to be a great quarterback. I don't. I really don't. And go ahead.
Well, so as it relates to that, again, the good news coming out of Minnesota was, I know you just sort of referenced it, but give me more on that. You're encouraged because you think Maye hung in there despite all these other things going on around him.
Yeah, I think overall, from this is my takeaway, I think overall these joint practices were a win for the Patriots because of the way Drake Maye performed. Because I think this is a reasonable approximation of what it's going to be like for him during the season. shaky offensive line in front of him, inconsistent separation from receivers, and a lot on his plate in terms of trying to make the offense go. And so for him to be able to go through those 2 days, not turn the football over, be productive, make plays under pressure, I think that bodes well for them, because he is the single biggest determining factor. His ability to elevate this offense and to be able to elevate what's around him and to not let what's around him drag him down, but for him to be able to push it up will be the single biggest determining factor, I think, in their success this season. And he got a taste of that. We got a taste of that in Eagan, Minnesota. And it seems like he came out of that and he did a pretty good job. I mean, Vrabel talked about it before yesterday's practice, the idea of, being out there in a bleep storm and not making it worse and being able to function. And he was able to do that as the offensive line was crumbling around him, as you had receivers that maybe aren't creating the separation they should have against a, Vikings secondary that is not exactly decorated. But that's what it's going to be for him, I think, a good chunk of the year. And it's really going to be on Maye and also Josh McDaniels, because McDaniels will scheme it up. I mean, he will scheme people open. He's very good at that. It's going to be on those two guys and their relationship to make this offense go and to improve this offense from what we saw last year when they were dead last in the NFL in passing yards.
So I'm fine with you saying it's a net win, or anyone saying it's a net win.
Yeah.
I am frustrated. The line is still what the line is, and the receiver group is still what the receiver group is. I think that's a joke that they've been at it this long and have had those many resources to improve it, and they can't improve it. So that frustrates, and it should frustrate everyone. But the thing you just described, though, Chris, is my expectation, because that's the way that I think that it works. I mean, just look at it. It's very, very rare that a good quarterback has a horrible team. And you're the biggest proponent of this that I know, that the quarterback raises all bolts, a human spackle, and this is the way that it works. And if you have a bad offensive line, if you have a good quarterback or a smart quarterback or a good decision maker, he gets rid of the ball, and a good coach helps scheme around those. But just stick with the quarterback. I defy you to find me a good quarterback who had a last place team and is drafting in the top 3 and has a last in the league offense. It just doesn't work that way. So if Drake Maye's good, like we think he's good, that almost in and of itself, if he is what we think he is, should lift them, I think, to the middle of the pack. That's where I think that happens all the time, frankly.
Yeah, and just for a point of clarification, I think it's the elite quarterbacks that do that, human spackle, elevate. I think you can have a good, to me, Jared Goff is good. He's not great. He's good. But, I mean, you see what he's doing in Detroit, and a lot of it is about what's around him. And they had some bad years there, even when he first got there. But as the talent around him got better, you can see that if you put him in a good situation, and I think that's most of the good quarterbacks. For example, if I like Jalen Hurts, but if you put him on this team, are you telling me they're automatically a 9 or 10 win team?
No. So, I don't know how I think I said top quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks.
I think you said good. So
good?
For me, it's
okay.
elite. It's
it's got to be better than good.
Top 5 or 6.
Fine.
That can do that.
Fair enough. And I really kind of say, well, top 10, but Hurts is a top 10 guy for sure. Would he? You don't think Hurts is an elevator?
I don't. I mean, do you think Dak Prescott's an elevator?
He could be. Yeah, because he's an elite passer. It just doesn't all add up. I know there's something that doesn't add up with him. And I agree with that, but his passing is elite. You don't think he's a premium elite?
No.
NFL
I mean,
passer?
I agree with you. I think he is an elite passer, but when the running game got taken away from him, and there were injuries on the line, and they didn't really have another receiver besides CeeDee Lamb, that team wasn't very good. So it's the elite quarterback. So I guess the question is, what kind of jump are we expecting? Was Josh Allen? And I know Josh Allen made the playoffs in year 2, but was he an elite quarterback in year 2?
No.
Murray, I think that's, so I think you can.
But you can turn into that, which Allen has if you get some help, So This is the thing. I'm with you. In terms of Maye, if he can get the processing thing and not be panicky in what's going to be a shaky offensive line and realize now rather than before you get to the regular season, you're not going to have a lot of clean pockets, but he's actually comfortable with that. Good. I'd much rather that than him being a helmet thrower and red ass.
But Chris, we just parse this. I think good is, again, define good. We defined it as top 10. Okay. If you had Jalen Hurts on a bad team, I think he gets you to the middle of the pack. I'm not telling you Super Bowls. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting to the middle of the pack, getting to a team that is at or above 500 and an offense that is in the teens. We looked this up. I say we, Boston Sports Inf, our buddy, looked it up. The last 5 years, every top 10 quarterback in rating had at least a record at or above 500, and their offense was at least in the teens, except for one. I think it was like 49 out of the 50 teams with one of the top 10 rated passers in the league had at least a good team. So, like, I sort of stand by that. I don't think you need to be elite to take a team from 4 to 8 wins. You need to be good.
Yeah, I guess I would ask what was, and I know we don't have the answer on hand, but I mean, what was the supporting cast for those teams?
Well, they couldn't all be good. They couldn't all be good, Chris.
What was around that guy?
I'm sure there were a bunch of teams that had crap. I'm sure there were. I'm sure there were teams that had bad offensive lines or bad receiver groups. I'm trying to call it up right now as I'm speaking. But
did they have both, though? You just said or. Did they have both? Because he has both. How many of those guys had both? Like, Joe Burrow had a bad offensive line, but he had Jamar Chase out there, right? And so he had I mean, this team doesn't – I'm not trying to make excuses for Maye. I need to see progress from him. But to me, it sounds like you're expecting him to go from what he was last year to, like, elite in 1 year. And
nope, I think
it's going to be tough.
I expect him to be around the 10th best quarterback in the league, okay, statistically, and as such to bring him to the middle of the pack. And I expect the same out of Vrabel in the coaching too, by the way. I'd say the same thing. Look year in, year out at the bottom of the league. It's not just horrible talent. It's the garbage coaches. The good coaches don't finish at the bottom of the league. So you don't ever see Tomlin down there, not even close. You don't see Harbaugh down there. You don't see McVay down there.
You never see Belichick down there. Oh, wait.
Oh, you do. You see, he was exposed. Yes, he was exposed. So, no, I think between the quarterback and the coach, you at least get to the middle of the pack if those guys are what we think they are. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we're on the same page. I mean, I expect him to be a 7-8 win team. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's really that much.
So you're up to 8. You're up to 8. You've been just in the recent past. I feel like I've gotten yelled at by you for saying they're going to win double their win total.
No, because I thought you. Well, I thought you, and you corrected me. I thought you were like 10, 11. You said you're 9, right?
7 to 9. And now, since you want one number, not a range, because I know McCarthy thinks I straddle the fence too much.
Okay.
9.
Right. Yep.
9 is the number. Here, look.
Okay.
Here's the Felger big board. 9 is the number. That's my expectation. If they go above that, they've overachieved. If they hit 9, that's kind of what I expected. If they win 7 or 8, I'll say, a little bit below, but okay, decent progress. 6 or below, disaster, they F the thing up. Okay, so that's it. Okay. 6, fail, F. 7 to 8, okay, but still not what I was expecting. 9, okay, that we're at that. Above it, great.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you think 9 wins, then I think you should feel good about what Drake Maye did in these joint practices. Now, let's see what he does in the game, because the first preseason game was certainly less than impressive. But for them to get to 9, he's going to have to do what he did in these joint practices. It's going to be a lot of it on him and having to overcome, some of the stuff around him to be able to elevate if they're going to get to 9.